All right, blessings, blessings. Welcome to Congregation Rehoboth Tuesday night teaching or TNT, where we blow up every single false doctrine, every single heretical teaching, and we throw it into the theological trash can. All right, and so we have we're blessed tonight to come back to you with our Bible study, and we're looking forward to uh, what Abba Yah is going to say in the Word tonight. So go get your pens, guys. Go get your pads. Take out your phones. Um, take notes. We're gonna drop some information on you tonight, and that's going to equip you. That is going to re-equip you, I should say, re-equip. Um, and as we're fighting this battle against the enemy, we need to be equipped. We need to be equipped with the teaching. And then another reason why you need to have a pen and a pad is because you need to check what I'm teaching. You need to go back and test it. You need to go back and look and see if what I'm saying matches up and lines up with the Word of Yah. And so that is super important. That's what we teach here at Congregation Rehoboth. That that you test the teachings. And so we're gonna get started, and we look forward to the Word tonight. And if you can do me a favor, if you can go to Facebook, go to Henry Benz Jr., and I want you to do something for me. I want you to hit the like button, and then I want you to share it on your page, or you can go to Congregation Rehoboth and do the same thing. For those of you on YouTube, you can definitely hit the like button as well and share on your YouTube page. If you have a page, you can share it on. Or I know that some people have their Facebook and their Instagram connected. And so that's what I'm doing. I believe it's connected on Instagram. There could be a little drag in the video. I'm not sure, but hopefully it's not. All right. Blessings to everybody who showed up tonight, and we're going to get started. So if you can go ahead and turn with me. Again, we're going to finish this series out, man. This is part 10. This has been a long series. I pray that you've been taking notes. Again, we're on number 10, part 10. And I mean, we've looked at several words for the word worship. I just pray that you have an understanding of what worship means biblically now, that it's not just simply coming in and singing songs and clapping your hands and lifting your hands. That's a part of worship, but that is not the only way that we worship. All right. And so I pray that you've been taking notes. But see, and the reason why, here's the reason. There are people that they don't want to believe things, not because they're not true. There are people that don't want to believe things because they don't want the responsibility that it comes with believing it. They don't want the responsibility. And so what they'll do is they won't study it because they will be accountable for what they know. And so they push back from it. They say, no, I don't even want to study it. I'm just going to reject it, because it's not because they don't believe it. It's not because it's not true, but they reject, and they don't. And watch this, they reject because they don't want the responsibility that comes with it. And so there is a huge responsibility that comes with being a believer in Yeshua HaMashiach. You can't just slide into the faith. Come on and go with me here. You're not just going to, I remember when I was in college and they wanted to recruit me to to go online for Omega Sci-Fi. But I knew that there were certain duties and responsibilities that I was going to have that I did not want to subject myself to. And another thing, I wouldn't have control over my own decision making. Yeah, when you pledge into a frat or a sorority, you don't have control over your own decision making. You have to do exactly what they want you to do. There are responsibilities and duties that they wanted you to do that you had to do. And because I didn't want that responsibility and want to take on those duties, I just rejected and said, nope, I don't even care what Omega Sci-Fi's history is. I don't care how good they're doing in the community. Incidentally, I'm grateful that I didn't get into a fraternity, because we know that fraternities and sororities are cultic organizations. Yeah, we learned that already. And so, but I still didn't want that responsibility, even back then when I didn't know. So I just wanted to say that, man. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I want you to take notes, even if you don't believe what's being said. You need to take notes to know why you don't believe. All right. But it's my belief. I'm just foolish enough to believe that if you take notes and you're really listening, I believe the Ruach is going to pull and tug on your heart a little bit, cause you to want to come on board. So, having said that, part 10. And yeah, I'm trying to rush through this. I taught on this on Shabbat, and I'm going to go back to it until I'm done. And hopefully, I know I said I was going to jump into a new series on Shabbat, but I think I'm going to have to stick with this for a couple more weeks. Hope you don't mind. All right. We know our scripture is Deuteronomy 18, Deuteronomy chapter 18. You don't have to turn there. If you want to, you can. I pray you have your Bibles with you. I know that, it's some people are getting off work, they're driving, and so I'm going to have to be their Bible. I'm going to have to show what the scriptures are saying here. So let me share my screen. If you don't, give me a second. And here we go. All right. So Deuteronomy chapter 18. Bible study is designed for you to be at home, or for you to, no, I shouldn't say be at home. It's designed for you to be in a place where you can sit down, tune everything else out, and then focus on the word. That let me say this. That is how you hide the word in your hearts. If you're and I get it. People are busy, but you know what? This is not the kind of activity where you can multitask and still reap the benefits. No, it's just impossible. And so many people, their growth is stunted because they're trying to do this, that, and the third, and they're not really focused on one thing. But this activity, you need all your mind to be focused. It's already hard enough to focus at it as it is because of the foods that we eat. Now I'm gonna be jumping into that. I know I'm making and throwing out statements, but I'm gonna show and prove all the statements that I'm making. That certain foods that you eat causes your mind to not focus. It causes you to be hyper. It causes you to not have the ability to sustain your focus. And so we're going to get into it. There are going to be some surprising things that I'm going to uncover, and that we're going to be looking at and taking a look at, what we put in this temple is super important, man. I had a clear revelation shouldn't say revelation, illumination of I was looking at food wrong. I'm gonna get into it. I want to jump so deep into it. I'm just chomping at the bit. But I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna move on. I've been looking at food wrong. I've been looking at food simply as something that tastes good. And so if someone makes a dish, my concern is that it tastes good. Not that it is fulfilling a purpose. That's not how I was looking at food. I was looking at food simply because it tastes good. That was my focus when I ate food. When I eat food, is that simply for the taste. And many of us have looked at food like that and say, you know what? It has to be seasoned. It has to have a certain taste to it. And because of that, because we have that focus, we've been looking at food in a totally unbiblical way. You can't find one. I'm gonna challenge you to find one scripture in the Bible where food was being eaten and it was simply for the purpose of it tasting good. Listen, food should be to sustain the functioning of our bodies. That's what food is for. It should simply be to sustain the functions of our body. And many of our bodies are not functioning properly. They're not functioning the way they've been designed. Why? Because we're getting old? No, it's not because we're getting older. It's because of the foods that we're eating. The foods that we've been eating has been adversely affecting the functioning of our bodies. I'm gonna get into it, not tonight, but soon. All right, so Deuteronomy 18 and verse number 9, the word of Yah says this. Again, he continues to remind the Israelites that they're going to go into the land, they're going to be blessed. So he says in Deuteronomy 18 and 9, when thou art, or when you are come into the land which the Lord thy God has already given you. See, he uses this word, guys, that you shall not, watch this, you shall not learn. It's the word. Now, those Hebrew students that took Brother David Royal's class, we know that the word for learn is, does anyone remember? Sister Deneen, you remember that word? Oh, maybe I know she's not here. All right. It's lamad. The word is lamad. It means to be instructed, to learn, to be taught, or to be trained. He says, when you come into the land, I don't want you to be trained by those who are already in the land. I don't want you to be, see here, I put it on the screen, to be taught, trained, exercise in. He says, no, I don't want you to become accustomed to doing things simply because it's the way things been done. He said, I don't want you to do that. All right. So he says, I don't want you to become accustomed. Don't get used to doing the things that these people in the land have been doing. And if you ask yourself why you do certain things, like for example, why do you eat? Why do you drink if you do? Why do you drink the milk of an animal? Why do you do that? That's a very important question. I started asking myself, like, why do I eat chicken? Why do I do that? I started asking, then I started looking at the nutritional value that chicken has. Then I started looking at, well, what happens to chicken when it's cooked, when you put fire to it. What happens? Are there any minerals or proteins? Again, that wasn't my focus. And so we have learned to do things from our parents, and they learned to do things from their parents, and on and on and on. And many of us don't even know why we do it. We just do it. And so we become accustomed. It's a habitual habit that we have. He said, don't learn to do after the abomination of the nations. There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all, listen here, guys, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. Now, it's important that we know what he means, what the scriptures mean when they say, don't make our sons and daughters pass through the fire. It's important to know what divination is. It's important to know what an observer of times is, an enchanter, what a witch is, or a charmer, a consulter with familiar spirits, a wizard, or a necromancer. It's important to know exactly what those things are. Why? Because some people can be engaging in these activities and have no idea, because we don't know what these words are, what they mean. What is it? What are the behavioral habits of these particular things, or I should say practices, that Yah considers an abomination? And so I want to show you something right quick. I want to show you, because this is gonna make you think. It's gonna make you think, and I want to show it to you because I don't know if we understand this or not, but I want to show you. And so I'm gonna take you to 1 Samuel chapter 15. I want to show you this, guys. 1 Samuel chapter 15. Because I believe, many people, we have a sincere heart, but there could be things that we do and we don't know that Yah hates it. All right. So I want you to look at this. For rebellion, 1 Samuel 15, verse 23. You should write this down. 1 Samuel 15, 23 and 24. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. So notice the two things that are being compared. All right. So you have rebellion and stubbornness. He says, if you are rebellious, then it is the same thing as practicing witchcraft. I'm going to go with me here, guys. If you are rebellious, it is the same thing as witchcraft. Do you get that? And see, that's the scary part, because you're like, well, I don't practice witchcraft. Well, how do you know you don't practice witchcraft? Because the scripture says if you are in a state of rebellion, then you indeed are practicing witchcraft. He says that for rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. In other words, it's the same as witchcraft. Now, what does he mean by rebellion? Because watch this, guys. In Deuteronomy 18 and 10, he says, don't learn to do things that witches do. All right. But then he says rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. So let's look at that real quick. Let's check out what rebellion actually is. All right. Again, so if you look at this word, rebellion simply means rebellion. You're rebelling against the word, you're rebelling against Yah, you're rebelling against parents, you're rebelling against whatever you're rebelling against that's righteous. Then look what else it means. It means to be bitter, bitterness. Look at this, guys. He says, if you are interested in being rebellious, then you are practicing witchcraft. And if that is the case, he says, all right, he tells us that you should not do this because it is, watch this, an abomination. It's an abomination. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God will drive them out from before thee. So in other words, he's going to punish those who are involved in rebellion. Now, in this context, who was being rebelled? Who was rebelling? Well, it was all of those Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, all of the people that was in the land of Canaan were in direct rebellion to Yah. They didn't love him. They didn't trust in him. There were some that probably said he didn't exist. And if that is, listen, guys, I want you to be clear on this, that if you are like these Canaanites and you are in a state of rebellion, look at this. It says, for rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. But then he says, stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. So when you are rebellious, you are involved in witchcraft. And when you are being stubborn, you're not only in iniquity, but also it's idolatry to be stubborn. Look at that. Just look, it's right there. Well, we know what stubborn means. All right. To push back. Huh. To push back on instructions that Yah gives, to push back on being obedient, to push back. All right, that is idolatry. When you listen, guys, this is serious, because many of us, what do we put? What, in the context, what are we pushing back? Pushing back on Yah, his instructions, the things that he declares we should be doing. We push back on them and say, nope, I don't want to do that. Or this is a classic one right here. I'm not ready to do that yet. I'm doing my best. Well, Yah doesn't care if you're doing your best. That may be true. But what he cares about is the fact that if you are stubborn, if you are pushing back on him, no matter how hard you're not trying, you're still committing idolatry. And he says it's an abomination to him. So we got to come to some kind of understanding that, number one, we're not the maker. I'm the clay. He's the potter. That means whatever he wants to do with me and shape me the way he wants, my position is limp. Okay, Abba, do what you want to do. But yet we take a stance against him, and we declare in our minds and our hearts that we're not going to do what he wants us to do. Stubborn, no matter how you slice it. He says, He's very clear here in 1 Samuel 15. Listen, you need to write these down. Rebellion and stubbornness. Find out. We just looked at the definitions. Now watch what he says here in the second sentence. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord. You see that? You've rejected the word. Now, what does it mean to reject the word of the Lord? Now, some people may say, well, I don't reject it. Well, let's see. Well, do you know what rejected means according to the scriptures? You despise it. You refuse to do what it's telling us to do. You run away from it. Now, how you do that, preacher? Well, you don't read it. That's refusing it. You don't study it. That's refusing it. So when he says you reject the word, he says you're refusing it and you're running away from it. You don't want to have anything to do with the word of Yah. How do we know this? Because we don't read it. We don't study it. We don't even look at our Bibles sometimes. You know, people that don't even look at their Bibles until they come to the congregation. Do you know people like that? Their Bible sits on the shelf, and the only time they grab it is when they're getting ready to go to the congregation or go to a Bible study. In other words, the Bible is just, the Bible is invisible until we get ready to go. And so, in other words, when that happens, we disdain it. We hate it. We despise it. And we just want to cast it away from us. All right. We wish that it would just disappear. He says, if that is the case, he says it's an abomination. We're practicing abomination. That's scary, man. You look. You don't want to play with this. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness as iniquity and idolatry, because thou hast pushed away, rejected. You wish it would disappear. You wish the word wasn't even written. And the way that you show that is that you ignore it. You don't read it. You don't study it. So you need to write down 1 Samuel 15 and 23 and prayerfully turn around. Turn around, man. In other words, make a U-turn. If you haven't been reading, start reading. If you haven't been studying, start studying. If you don't care about the word, start caring about it. Turn around. All right. So, having said that, tonight we're going to deal with when my abominations, when they become idolatrous. In other words, when my sin that Abba Yah says is an abomination, when my sin becomes something that I do, that I enjoy, that I worship. All right, so let's get it. We left off on Shabbat with the word kalas, which means good. And so we looked at Matthew chapter 12 and verse 35. All right, and so let's go there really quick. Matthew 12 and verse 35. Okay. And in this particular verse, it talks about, watch this, a good man. And it uses the word, now watch this. Count how many times this word is used. A good man, 1, out of the good treasure, 2, of the heart bringeth forth good things, 3. So we got to know, well, what does it mean to be good? What's all this good about? Okay, and so we looked at that and we found out that this word agatho or agathos in the root It means inner goodness or intrinsic goodness, to be honorable, to be upright, blameless. All right. And so he says here, kalos, on the other hand, is outer goodness. It is the goodness, it is beauty. It's referring to how a person looks on the outside that can deceive you into thinking that they're good on the inside. And see, this is very dangerous because you have people that in your face, they will smile, they will talk to you, they will do all these things in front of your face. But as soon as you're gone, as soon as they have an opportunity, many people who are only kalos, that means good on the outside, but on the inside, they are not agathos. They don't have intrinsic goodness. They will stab you in your back, and they will hate you. And they'll say things to themselves that they won't say to you. They'll say things to their family members about you that they won't say to you. They'll say things to their friends. They'll say things privately because they don't have any intrinsic goodness. There's none there. All right. And so he's talking about this good man out of the good treasure of his heart is going to bring forth good things, and the evil man out of the evil treasure of heart bring forth evil things. But watch this. But I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give an account thereof in the day of judgment. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. And so what we had to do is look at verse 35 and verse 36. And we had to say that when a person, look what it says, out of the good treasure, verse 35, the good treasure of the heart. All right. So what we're looking at is that you have with every single person within their heart, depending on the person, they will bring forth good things out of the good treasure of their heart. Now watch this. You can do something that is considered good and you not be good on the inside. See that's the horrifying truth, is that you can do things that are good because they're not coming from your heart, because there's no intrinsic goodness there to bring forth good things. But you can do something good, but on the inside you can be evil. And so this is the dangerous part. That's why it's not about doing the good deed of the day. It's about getting your heart right first. All right. And the only way you can do that is by submitting to the word of Yah, by following the word of Yah. All right. So what we want to do here is we want to establish that there's treasure in heaven, but we can also make other things our treasure. We can say, I don't care about the treasure in heaven. What I care about is the treasure on earth. And usually people that care about the treasure on earth are not good people. All right. And so this is motivation to say that out of the good treasure of my heart, what if I lay up treasure in heaven and I delay my gratification, the things that I want, if I lay up treasure in heaven, what I'm saying is, Abba, I'm willing to take on intrinsic goodness down here because you're the one that has given me treasure in my heart. All right. I want us to be clear that Abba Yah is the one that has given us treasure in our heart. That's why he says, out of the good treasure of our heart. All right. So we can't be good on our own. That's why we need him to give us this good treasure. Now, let's get into a little bit about, and we're going to look here in Luke 16, and I believe verse number 9. And so let's check this out. But I want you to see this. And I think I said that I like the way Luke says it. Watch this. And I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when you fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitation. Now, this is a very interesting parable. It's a very interesting parable that I hope you read it. I want you to go back and read this. I want you to go back and read so you can understand. Read chapter 16, but I'm just going to cut to the chase of why would he say, and I say unto you, make to yourself friends of mammon. In other words, he's saying that in this parable, he's talking about a servant that got fired, basically. And what the servant did was he went to all the debtors, and he asked for a reduced payment from them. And so that's how he made friends. In other words, he says, well, I know you owe me 10, but I'll just take 5. Pay me 5. And so, of course, if you owed someone something and they reduced the amount that you had to pay, of course, you'll be glad. You're going to make friends with them. So he did that. He says, make yourself friends of mammon. Now, again, mammon is money. And if you read this parable, you'll see that. But mammon is described as unrighteous mammon. It's unrighteous. And he says that when you fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitations. Watch this. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful and also in the much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust in the much. Watch this. If therefore you have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust true riches? Now, this is important because he's saying, look, this servant was not faithful in collecting the entire debt. That's unrighteous mammon. He says, if you're unfaithful in dealing with money, how are you going to be faithful with the true riches? And see, many of us would prefer money over true riches. That speaks to our heart. That means that we don't have good treasure in our heart. If you prefer, and all your focus is to get money, to get that bag, to get the chips and all of that, if that's your focus and that's your goal, then Yah is not going to trust you with true riches. Now we have to figure out, well, what is true riches? All right. And so, wait, let me go back to this verse. I think I wanted to hit, let's see. No, never mind. I'll deal with that later. All right. So he's talking about these true riches. And so let me share something with you really quick, because I want you to see what the true riches are. All right. So let's go to 2 Corinthians 4 and 7, because I want to show you what the true riches are. Here, 2 Corinthians 4 and verse 7. Here are the true riches. Let's see. Watch what 7 says. But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us. We're troubled on every side, yet not distressed. Why? Because of this treasure we have. We're perplexed, but not in despair. Why? Because we have treasure. We have true riches. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Why are we not forsaken? Because we have true riches. We have treasure inside. Cast down, but not destroyed. Why? Because we have treasure inside of us. All right. We have this treasure in earthen vessels, always bearing about in our body the dying of the Lord, Yeshua HaMashiach, that the life also of Yeshua might be made manifest in our body. All right. For which, watch this, for we which live are always delivered unto death for Yeshua's sake, that the life also of Yeshua might be made manifest in our mortal flesh. So then death worketh in us, but life in you. Why does it work life in us? Why is it a benefit to the believer? Why is it a benefit to have treasure inside of you? Is because when you face things that are unbearable, when you face traumatic situations, they don't destroy you, they don't take you out, but they make you better. They make you better for Yah's use. Why? Because you have this treasure, true riches that are inside of you that causes you to understand that I'm not defeated, I'm not destroyed, I'm not done. This is not the end. Now, let's get into what this treasure actually is. We know we have treasure inside of us. So let's get to it. All right. So let's go to Colossians, because I want you to see what this treasure is. Colossians chapter 2. All right. Colossians 2, verse 1 says this: for I would that you knew what great conflict I have for you. So Paul here is saying that he's in conflict, that he's in distress. And for them at Laodicea, and for as many as we have not seen or has not seen my face in the flesh. So Paul is in conflict. He says that their hearts might be comforted, being knit together in love, and unto all riches, again, true riches, of the full assurance of understanding, to the acknowledgement of the mystery of Yah and of the Father and of Yeshua. Watch this. Here are the true riches. In whom, now who is this whom that he's referring to? So watch this, watch this carefully, verse 3 carefully. In whom are hid all the treasures, here it is. What kinds of treasures? Wisdom and knowledge. So watch this. The treasure that's in us is wisdom and knowledge. But wisdom and knowledge, watch this, is only in Yeshua HaMashiach. Well, you may say, well, you can't have wisdom and knowledge outside of Yeshua. Yes, but not the true wisdom and knowledge. Yes, you can have wisdom, worldly wisdom, which is not true wisdom. You can have worldly knowledge, but again, all of that, watch this. He says knowledge and wisdom, which is in Yeshua. That means that if you have Yeshua, then you have access to the wisdom and knowledge. That is one of the benefits, one of the treasures that's in us, is that we have access to wisdom and knowledge. Now let's see what that means, wisdom and knowledge, because some of us may think, well, what wisdom are you referring to? What knowledge are you referring to? So this word wisdom is Sophias. And so anyone whose name is Sophia, their name means wisdom. All right. So watch this. Wisdom. Broad and full intelligence. See, that's the thing. People in the world do not have broad and full intelligence. So you can have some wisdom, but it's not broad and it's not full. And this is why you will never understand reality. You will never understand life. You will never understand why you are here. You will never understand what's happening in the world, because you don't have Yeshua HaMashiach. You remember, you deny him. You don't read about him. You don't study about him. You don't pray to him. And so because of that, you don't have broad and full knowledge or intelligence. Can anyone have broad and intelligent knowledge? Yes, if they have Yeshua HaMashiach. Watch this. Use of the knowledge of very diverse matters. He says that you can have a broad and full intelligence on diverse matters, on just about anything. And is that possible? Yes, it's possible. But you've got to be committed to Yeshua HaMashiach, and you have to watch this, you have to lay up treasure in heaven. Because if you don't have treasure in heaven, then you're going to have an evil heart. There's no room for Yeshua in an evil heart. Watch this. What is this wisdom he's talking about that's in Yeshua? The varied knowledge of things that are human and divine things. See, you got many people that only know the human knowledge. They only have human knowledge, but that's not all the knowledge that's in the world. This is why you have atheists, because they deny that divine knowledge even exists. All right. But we know that knowledge is not only of human knowledge, but there's divine knowledge as well. Watch this. How do you get it? It's acquired by acuteness and experience, and summed up in maxims and proverbs. See, when unbelievers experience things, they don't have a full understanding of what happened to them and why it happened. Scripture says we do. Here's another thing that's difficult for people who don't have full intelligence, is that they're not able to, look at this, the act of interpreting dreams and always giving the sages advice. So when we have full intelligence that's in Yeshua, the wisdom that's in Yeshua, how many times have we had dreams and we're like, man, I don't know what that dream means? I did. I want to be able to interpret my dreams. Look at this. Look at what this is saying here. That wisdom, skill in the management of affairs. If things in your life are going haywire and it's just like it's all over the place, you can't manage it. It's because you need the wisdom, full wisdom and knowledge that's in Yeshua. All right. Now we know that our world doesn't have wisdom and knowledge. Our leaders don't have wisdom and knowledge. As a matter of fact, they're starting the debates that are going to be coming, and we got Trump and others, and then you got the Democratic Party. But look what this says: the wisdom of Yah as evidenced in forming and executing councils in the formation of government. Our government in the United States doesn't have wisdom and knowledge. They don't have full intelligence. Look at this, government of the world. They don't have full intelligence and knowledge. But watch this. And the scriptures. Yes, you can have full intelligence and knowledge of the scriptures. All right. And so these are the true riches that we are to desire, not money. Because watch this, if you had money and you don't have the ability to manage that money, then someone can take that money from you easily. But if you had the true riches and understanding of diverse matters, then you could manage the unrighteous mammon, which is money. You see how that works? So let me look at Mark 15. I want to show you one more thing here. Mark 15, I think it was was it 19 or 9? 19, yeah. I think I wrote the scripture down wrong. Yeah, I wrote the wrong scripture there, so I'm gonna have to go to this one here. All right. Now look at this. This is when treasures have become idols. Now, what you're going to do is read Matthew chapter 19, starting in verse 1. But you remember what this one is about. Let's see, the rich young ruler. You remember that? I'm not going to read it all, but I'm just going to read what Yeshua said to him. Yeshua said unto him, well, let me give you a little context. I might as well read this. He said unto him, well, I need to go back. So the rich young ruler here, he says, good master, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? And you can read through what he says. Now, look what he says in 17. I want you guys to pay attention to something. And Yeshua said unto him, why callest me good? There is none good but one, that is God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. But watch this. He said unto him, which ones? Yeshua said, now watch this. When he said which ones, Yeshua knew already which ones he was not doing. Thou shalt do no murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not bear false witness. Now, there are people who are against the commandments that will say this. See, these are the only commandments you have to do. Okay? They make the mistake of interpreting this incorrectly because they don't have the true wisdom that helps us understand the word. He said, thou shalt not murder, don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery, and don't bear false witness. Oh, so you can have, so is he saying, so this is what you say then. So you can have idols, you can serve other gods. That's not mentioned there. So you see how you could just unravel their logic. Okay. So how many are mentioned here? Steal, kill, adultery, false witness. So you mean I can break the other 6? Come on and go with me here. You see how ridiculous that is? So I can break the other 6. Oh my goodness. So yeah, these are the only 4 you have to do. Someone said the only 4 you have to do are the ones mentioned there. And the rest I can break. The other 6 I can break. So watch this. I can break, watch this. I can break this one. I can have other gods before him. That's not mentioned. Okay. I can bow my knee to other gods. All right. I can take the Lord's name in vain. Wow. I don't have to keep the Sabbath. See, many people who are against the Sabbath will use this verse, but then they get themselves caught up in a trick bag, because how do you explain thou shalt have no other gods wasn't mentioned either? So now we can have other gods. We can make graven images. We can do that stuff now. We can take the Lord's name in vain. All right. What else? Yeah. We can covet. Oh man. I've been wanting my buddy's motorcycle. I think I'm gonna go. Well, I'm not gonna steal it, but I can covet now. See how ridiculous that is? Okay. Watch what he says. It's a conversation. He says, honor thy father and mother, thou shalt love the Lord, thy neighbor as thyself. The young man said unto him, he says, all of these I have kept from my youth. What do I lack? Watch this. Yeshua said unto him, here's our verse. If thou wilt be perfect, go and sell that thou hast. Go and sell what you have and give it to the poor. and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. But watch this. But when the young man heard what Yeshua said, he went away sorrowful. Why? For he had turned his great possessions into an idol. He couldn't let go of it. And so instead of having treasure in heaven, he would rather have treasure, unrighteous mammon, on earth. He went away sorrowful because he could not give up his appetite for money. And let me tell you, this is the danger of storing up treasure on earth. Right? Very, very dangerous to store up treasure on earth. All right. And so let's go to Mark, I believe, chapter 10. And yeah, Mark 10. Here it is again. This very interesting story. I want you to see how it's said in different ways. Look, then Yeshua, beholding him, loved him, and said unto him, one thing that thou lackest, go thy way and sell whatever thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come take up your cross and follow me. He could not sell what he had because, watch this, his abomination had become idolatrous. His abomination was that he loved money, and it was idolatrous to him. Now, what does Paul tell us to do in 1 Corinthians? I want you to see this. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 14. So let's see what Apostle Paul is instructing us to do here. He said, wherefore, my dearly beloved, he says, flee from idolatry. See, he's telling us, he's telling you, he's telling me that if we want to have treasure in heaven, if we want to make sure that we're not serving unrighteous mammon, we got to get away from idolatry. We got to get away from it. There's no question about it. We got to get away from idolatry. We have to make sure that nothing that we're doing is idolatrous. Why do we have to get rid of idolatry? Not only is it a commandment, but in the book of Revelation 21:8, it says, but the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake of fire. Now, this is the eternal destruction here. They shall have their part in the lake, which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Now, this is very important because, we can get into, is there really a lake that has fire in it and it's burning with fire and brimstone? Some people believe that, it's literal. Some people believe that brimstone is literal and that the fire is literal. And so brimstone is just another word for sulfur. Sulfur is, what has sulfur in it? I'm gonna share this with you. Sulfur is it's in tap water. Those pipes that, remember we used to drink out of the water hose and all that stuff, it had sulfur in it. Now, what is sulfur's effect on our bodies? How does sulfur affect our bodies? Well, first of all, let's see what foods. I know I can't get away from this. What foods contain sulfur? Guys, ready? You ready for this? You know what? Oh my goodness. So turkey contains sulfur. Beef contains sulfur. Fish and chicken, they contain sulfur. Now watch this. How does sulfur affect the body? It's going to be important here. Now, some people are going to say, you know what? I'd rather eat sulfur. Okay. So our bodies already have sulfur in it, but when you eat foods that have sulfur in it, we have an overabundance of sulfur. We have high content of sulfur. And so, yeah, it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Um, Again, we have sulfur in our body, but when we eat too much foods that have sulfur in it, now we have overabundance of sulfur. Okay. And so when that happens, it becomes very dangerous. Sulfur in excess, too much, can cause brain cells to die. Okay. And have brain damage. This is not, look, man, you can go blind from having an abundance of sulfur. Your eyesight begins to go bad. Think about people whose eyesight has gone bad. It's because possibly we've been eating foods that have too much sulfur. I know, man, I can't get away from this. But when I saw that fire and brimstone and sulfur, it automatically triggered this thought in my mind. People have seizures because of sulfur, too much, an overabundance of sulfur. Yeah, man. Now, for people that think this is a literal sulfur, that there's going to be fire, when sulfur is being burned, because remember it said there will be brimstone, fire, burning, and brimstone. So burning sulfur creates, sulfur dioxide. Now this stuff is very interesting. Sulfur dioxide. It's a pollutant, and it pollutes not only the atmosphere. I mean, it's all in our atmosphere. Burning oil, um, diesel oil. These particles are all in the atmosphere. And so, yeah, sulfur dioxide is not a good thing. I think when people light matches, I'm not sure, I can't remember. I think when people light matches, that gas, that smoke is sulfur dioxide. Anyway, I just wanted to share that, man, because it says burning or burn with fire and brimstone. So fire and brimstone it's not a good combination. All right. That's when it comes to idolaters, when we make our abominations idolatrous and we serve something else, and we continuously do that, when we die, we will die the second death. All right. Acts 19. Let's go to Acts chapter 19. And we're going to look at verse 18 and 19 here. All right. And so I want to share this. This is interesting. So if you remember when Paul, he went to Ephesus and he was preaching hard. He was preaching hard, guys. And remember when Paul preached, there were individuals who were into idol worship. And they were into witchcraft and all kinds of idolatry. But Paul's preaching the word caused those people. Watch what verse 19 said. After the people who was in idolatry, who was practicing witchcraft, who completely rejected Yah. Watch this. And many that, in verse 18, and many that believed came and confessed and showed their deeds. Many of them also, which used curious arts, which is dark arts or magic, brought their books together, and they burned them before all men. And they counted the price of them, which equaled about 50,000 pieces of silver. The point in that is that these people who were formerly idolatrous, they were able to give up their idolatry and to enjoy not only the treasure in heaven, but true riches on earth, which is wisdom and knowledge. All right. And so again, we need to really understand this idea of idolatry. But I want to get into witchcraft real quick. I want to mention what the scriptures say about witchcraft. And so let's look at Galatians, because again, we already looked at, rebellion is the sin of witchcraft. But I want to get into this. And so I want you to go to Galatians. I believe it's Galatians chapter 5. Yeah, Galatians 5. And I want to show you something. Galatians 5, verse 19. Watch this. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envy, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such alike, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in the times past, that they which do such things shall not have treasure in heaven or inherit the kingdom of God. Now watch this. He talks about in verse 20, idolatry and witchcraft. All right, I want to show you something about idolatry and witchcraft. Notice this word here for witchcraft. It's pharmakia. This word is pharmakia. Witchcraft is pharmakia. Now watch this. Watch this. The use or the administering of drugs. The use of drugs. This is very important. For those of you who just because marijuana is legal, you are engaging in witchcraft. Because you're using marijuana. I don't care if you light it up and fire it up and burn it. I don't care if you use it as a tea. I don't care if you use it in cookies or edibles. Listen, it's witchcraft. All right, now watch this. sorcery and dark magical arts are often found in connection with idolatry. All right. Now, this word pharmakios, one who prepares or uses magical remedies, drugs, or spell-giving potions. Man, listen. This is serious. One who prepares or uses magical remedies. Now, we can get into different magical remedies and what those things are. But I want you to understand that you don't want to get into this magical remedy, use of drugs, and all kinds of things that we have no idea. A magical remedy, let me tell you, a magical remedy is the use of drugs. As a matter of fact, in India, they had this law passed in 1954. It's called the Drug and Magic Remedies Act, so let me just read it. It's an act of the Parliament in India which controls advertising drugs on television in India. It prohibits advertisements of drugs and remedies that claim to have magical properties and make doing so a cognizable offense. And so that's very interesting. Let's see, does the United States have one? Yeah, this is interesting that they would use this. Magical remedies. Let's see. Check this out. Oh, this is very interesting. So people who are from Louisiana, you would probably know something about this. People would say, I'm gonna put a root on you, whatever that means. That they're gonna use this magical remedy to, control you, or yeah, man, it's this stuff is real. Dark magic is real, and it's disturbing. And so we got to be very careful when we talk about, people using dark magic, and we, because we're not familiar with it, we probably wouldn't even recognize if someone's using it or not. Does anyone else have an example of dark magic that they know about? I mean, this stuff comes from, traditional, these African religions in the continent of Africa, like voodoo, all kinds of superstitions, stuff that's related to health.
My question I put in the chat was, where would herbalism and natural medicines fall in the conversation? Because I know a lot of drugs come from plants, like
All the
mushrooms.
drugs come from
Yeah,
plants.
all of them really. But
Yep.
people use plants for medicines too.
Mm-hmm. So your question is, natural medicines come from plants just like drugs do?
No, it was where does herbalism, which is like the art or whatever it is to, make natural medicine from plants.
Okay, I was just reading what you wrote in the chat here. So I'm sorry, can you say your question one more time?
Where would herbalism fall in this conversation, considering that medicines and drugs both come from plants?
I think when you talk about drugs, I
It's
believe
more psychedelic as opposed to.
so plants have natural nutrients and vitamins and all of these things that we need, that our bodies need. But what happens is when they take all of those nutrients and vitamins and vitality out, then you're left with a substance that's no longer a healing remedy, but it's a drug. Just like if you take the coca plant, it's an actual plant that grows, and you can make all kinds of things. You can make cocoa butter out of it, or you can make cocaine out of it. And so I don't know the process of making cocaine, but I know that they strip all the nutrients and vitality out of those plants. And then what's left is a use that's not medicinal anymore. It becomes a drug.
Got it.
Yeah, that's what in my mind I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking that if we eat certain fruits and vegetables, they all have nutrients and vitality in them. But when scientists you know grabs a hold of any plant, that's the crazy thing, is that these plants could either be used for nutrients, or if they strip the nutrients out of it, then it becomes a drug. And this is what happens with food. This is exactly what happens when now some people may not believe this, but when you cook vegetables, you are watch this now. That's an awesome question. When you cook vegetables, we know that you can cook the nutrients right out of it. When you heat it up to a certain, I think you can heat it up to like 115 degrees Fahrenheit. I can't remember. Somewhere between 115 and 150 Fahrenheit. If you heat it up to that, if you heat vegetables up that high, you've burned all nutrients and vitality out of those vegetables. Can someone Google that just to make sure and check me? But oh yes. Now see, this is what they do with the coca plant. I want to show you this real quick. This is what they do with the coca plant. All cocaine contains the extracts of erythroxylum. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Coca plants leaves. Okay, so that's the natural, as well as some form of cutting agent. This cutting agent can vary based on who is producing the cocaine, but often includes talcum powder, sugar, baking soda, caffeine, or even other additives, addictive substances like heroin or fentanyl. All right. Now watch this. There are essentially three main steps to making cocaine. After the leaves are harvested and soaked, the base of the powdered drug is extracted through one or two extraction methods, and the resulting crystallized substance It's dried into bricks. Here are more detailed step-by-step process of making cocaine. Okay, so they soak it in gasoline. So, you know, this is what people are putting in their bodies. They soak it in gasoline. The gasoline is drained. The cocaine base is dried, with the gasoline still on it. It's just dried. The dried substance is dissolved into a solvent. Excess solvents are removed, and it is dried into bricks. And so let me say this. They have, going through this process, they have stripped this plant, which can, make, cocoa. It can make other things with it. This coca plant doesn't have to just be made into cocaine. But they strip it of all its nutrients. And the same thing happens when we cook vegetables. When you cook your vegetables, you burn all the nutrients out of the vegetables. And as a result, it becomes like a drug. Watch this. For example, look at this, guys. Look, cooking destroys some of the nutritional value of vegetables. For example, vitamin C is destroyed by heat. So the longer you cook, especially at high temperatures, the less vitamin C remains. All right. Okay, you see this, guys? Water-soluble vitamins, such as vitamin B and C, are the most sensitive to cooking methods. These vitamins have tendencies to leach out of veggies when boiled and can be degraded by heat. Okay, so watch this. Now, since most of our food that we eat is cooked, there's no vitality in the foods that we're cooking. There's no nutrients and vitamins that our bodies need to survive. Even if we're eating a healthy vegetable that we consider a healthy vegetable. And so now the food has become like a drug. Because what do they do to it? They add additives, preservatives, and what are those? Sugar, salt. They make stuff taste. They add high fructose corn syrup to make it taste good. Salt, so it's seasoned. And all we're doing when we eat is that we become addicted to most foods that we eat, because most of the foods that we eat, the vital nutrients are not there, and it becomes addicting. Wow. You guys see that? I want to know what y'all think about that. Because we say eating nutritious foods can help us, right? But what happens when we eat the foods that we cooked all of the nutritious value out of it? Look at this. The following nutrients are often reduced during cooking. Water soluble, we already said vitamin C, vitamin B, thiamine, B1, riboflavin, B2, niacin, B3, pantothenic acid, B5, pyridoxine, B6, folic acid, B9, cobalamin, B12, vitamin A, D, E, and K, mineral, primary potassium, magnesium. So all of these things are in our bodies that we need to replenish our bodies with. But when we eat foods that contain those things and we cook them, at high levels of heat, all of these nutritional vital nutritious value is taken away. So the foods that we eat are nutrient deficient. And so now what we're eating is just like it's a drug, because again, they add additives to the foods to make it taste good, so that we'll continue to like it. And so what they've done is that they've turned food into a drug. When you buy frozen, when you buy things that are not fresh and frozen, and you cook them, they've already added the additives to it to make it taste good and to make them, addicting. But when the vital nutrients are not there, it becomes a drug. I believe that. I believe it, man. We just show what happens when you cook cocaine, when you dry it, when you take it through a process of stripping the nutrients and the dietary nutritious value of it, it becomes a drug. Same thing with food. And so we need to rethink what we're putting into our body, because again, like I said before, our bellies have become our gods. Our bellies have become our gods, and because of that, we become idolaters. And he says, idolaters will not inherit the kingdom of Yah. You better get you some food with vital nutrients. Any comments? Any questions about that? I just said a whole lot. That's a lot. To think that the foods that we're cooking, because we're cooking the vital nutrients out of them, we've turned them into a drug. Because what do? We put sugar, we put salt, we're basically addicted to it. So watch this. We're addicted to substances and not even the food. We got to turn this thing around again. We're not looking at food correctly. Why? That's just what was passed on to us. No one educated us about food and why all of this stuff about the nutrients and the values, nutritious value that goes into the foods that we eat and why we need that to sustain our life. We weren't taught about that. Mama put some chicken on the plate and we ate it. Mama gave us cow milk and we drank it. No other species drinks another species' milk except us. Why is that? We never even questioned. Well, that's a mouthful. No pun intended. But we have to consider that could be an act of idolatry. Food. I want to know what you guys think about that. Can food be an idol? Can we become addicted to food? And so addicted that it becomes an idol? Because we cook So watch this. The foods that we're not eating it for nutrition because we've cooked the vital nutrients out. And so now it's a habit of just putting something in my mouth. And because they've been doctored to taste good, I already told you I was eating food just because it tastes good. Because it's been doctored to taste good, I'm addicted to it. What do y'all think about that?
I wouldn't say it's too far of a stretch. Like, I know there was studies done on the health of people eating McDonald's for so many days in a row, and I don't know that they've done studies like that on the health of people eating just in a regular grocery store, because they label different things in different ways to make it seem healthy, but you know um it's not always so. For example, uh Capri Suns you get at Costco, like the kids juices you get, the 4-pack, it's like 10 in each box. I think one day when the boys were way smaller, I was like, oh, let me try and get this one that say 100% fruit juice, right? So I went to put it in my cart, and I want to say it was a little bit more expensive than the one I usually bought, just a regular box. I said, let me look at the sugar intake on both boxes. It was way more sugar in the one that said 100% fruit juice, which makes you think, oh, this got to be better than the other one. But the grams of sugar was like way more. So I ended up putting it back, and I wouldn't get it. I said, I'd rather just get the regular one because there's way too much sugar in this.
You see that?
And if people don't like look at things like that, or even just like MSG, monosodium glutamate, it make everything taste good. It's that salty accent flavor, that be in a Walmart brand potato chips or whatever. You be like, them Walmart brands be smacking. Yeah, that's all that MSG.
It's addictive as well.
And it's addictive, and you want to get it again, and it's cheaper than the other brand. So yep.
And it doesn't have any nutritious value whatsoever. And so now the question is, you have to rethink, why do I eat what I eat if it doesn't have any nutritious value to it? And listen, some of us, we've been eating this. This is what I'm thinking. That, I mean, man, junk food, we shouldn't even call that food. Man, this is scary, man. This is scary. This should be making us think, like, what's happening with our diet, with the food in our closet, with the food in our refrigerator. What if you look around, I want you to look around next time you go to the gas station, the next time you go anywhere, and look how many people are obese. Look how many people. Now, some people may say, well, you don't have to be, skinny and what do. Look, I'm talking about being obese to the point where you have health problems because of the obese, like high blood pressure, because of the elevated, like you said, the elevated salt and sugar in, all of this stuff, this junk food. We're blowing up. Because we're addicted to these foods that don't contain any vital nutrients. They stripped them all out, and now they've gotten us hooked like addicts. And watch this, we made these foods our God because we can't say no. We can't reject them. There are people who have a stronger pull for fast food when it calls instead of listening to Yah when he calls. We could ignore him, but we're addicted to junk food and we listen to the junk food. Come get me. Yeah. So we don't have to deal, because this is a serious that a lot of us preachers we don't address this, and we do funerals. Okay, you got children now who, I remember when, man, you hardly ever saw like kids that were obese because of junk food. When I was in elementary, you didn't see that. Everybody was skinny. Now, being skinny don't mean you're healthy, but I'm saying, everybody wasn't obese. We were, I mean, man. But now you got kids that have high blood pressure, kids that are having heart attacks and seizures, and that food addiction is real. The sugar addiction is real. And again, most of our foods contain that sugar, the high fructose corn syrup. And I'm wondering, what does that do to our brains? See, that's another key study. You ever think about that? Man, oh my goodness. You guys want to see this? The pro-inflammatory effect of fructose was also evidenced in other brain regions. Excess consumption of high fructose corn syrup exerted detrimental effects on hippocampal function and caused neural inflammation in the CNS during adolescence. I need to look up hippocampal function. Does anyone know what that is? The hippocampal function. What is that? This is what's being done to it. See, we don't even know what's happening to us.
Hippocampus is, I don't know if it regulates your emotions or it regulates something.
You know what? See, I didn't even know this. Did you know that? What is the hippocampal? Oh boy, here we go.
It's a major component of the brain.
Long-term memory formation and memory retrieval. It also plays a role in spatial memory, allowing individuals to keep track of where objects are and the position of their body relative to objects. People bumping up against stuff. Ooh, dang, I just ran into the door. High fructose corn syrup. Dang, where are my keys at? I do not know where my keys. High fructose corn syrup. That's this part of the brain. You see that? This part right here. See if I can make this bigger. Yeah, man, this is serious. Look at, what are the 4 functions? Be an integral part of the limbic system. The limbic system, hippocampus plays a vital role in regulating learning. Look, man. One of the reasons why our kids cannot stay still in class. They can't focus in classes because their hippocampus system is affected by high fructose corn syrup, which, watch this, is in mostly, it's in a lot of items that we eat. It's in a lot of them. What foods contain high fructose corn syrup, guys? Fast food, definitely. So if you're eating candy, if you're eating anything in a wrapper, listen, I'm just going to boil it down like this. If you're eating anything out of a wrapper, the majority of those things have high fructose corn syrup. Anything that's packaged, high fructose corn syrup. Soda. Like you were saying, the fruit juices. Fast food. Sweet and sour dipping sauce. McDonald's. If you eat all of that, any fast food restaurant you go to, condiments. Oh my goodness, I love condiments. High fructose corn, barbecue sauce, high fructose corn, ice cream, packaged breakfast foods. If you look at the back of what you read, it's messing with your learning. Your kids' learning, our kids' learning is suffering because of we're addicted to high fructose corn syrup. All of it. Look, I'm gonna say this: peanut butter and jelly, high fructose corn syrup, dog. Crackers, pancake syrup, applesauce. We think we look, man. Oh my goodness, it's affecting our learning. If somebody may say, "Well, I don't have no problem with it," okay. I mean, think about this. Our kids are not learning at a top level. Look at the scores of our schools. And if you got teachers that are on high fructose corn syrup also, then we're not going to give challenging assignments that challenge the learning process or the rigor. Let me be academically correct. The rigor. All right, man. I it's 10 o'clock. I gotta go, guys. Look, I'm taking 2 classes this fall here that deal with that's dealing with health, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to take those classes, because I want to make sure that we're doing something about this. I want to be educated about what we're doing. Eating takes up a major part of our life, and I want to make sure that what we're eating is not killing us. But that goes against the gospel. If I'm preaching a message of life, but then I turn around and give you food that's killing us, help me make that make sense. All right. Said enough. I'm going to finish my watermelon juice, guys. I'm trying. Look, I'm trying. I'm not just over here preaching. I'm trying my best. I mean, look. I don't want any more people to die because we're addicted to food, because it causes high blood pressure. It affects our learning, our memory. Kids in the classroom say they can't remember the study on the test. So what do? They cheat. They get caught. They get busted. They get Fs. They drop out. Or they don't learn the content, and they're going to be the future leaders of this country when we're old. Well, shalom. There's peace. There's joy in Abba Yah, but man, we got to get this right. We've been good on doctrine, on living holy and doing these things, but listen, I've been saying that this is the final frontier of what we got to deal with to overcome. We've addressed, the moral issues, and we need to continue, but we got to bring in this issue of food. And that's exactly what this pastor intends to do. Blessings and shalom to you. Shalom and Lila Tov. Blessings, guys.